Hey guys, thanks for joining me for another Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia video. Today we are taking on Dare to Defy 7, and we are finishing up this group of Dare to Defy quests. I am recording this over a pre-recording, so at the time I'm recording this, this is after the community stream. I will say I was disappointed that they didn't announce another Dare to Defy. I feel like at this point it's going to be something they only do for like really major celebrations. It may be an anniversary only thing, but I kind of wish they just always did it. It's just so fun to hop into these fights with some different team comps and things like that, and actually have incentive to do it like with rewards or whatever, but that's okay. So yeah, I thought this Dare to Defy overall was a lot easier than the first one because we are deep into FR era. We have a lot of options to use on these fights. I feel like 2 of these fights, maybe 3 of them, were pretty darn hard. So yeah, actually I think 3 of these fights were pretty hard in this Dare to Defy pod. I would say Penelo's, the very first one, was decently hard, and then the Spiritus one was really hard, and then what is it? The one with the floating heads, or was that the Spiritus one? Whatever. The last one, part 6, the one right before this, was a pretty tough one, right? So there was a few tough ones in here, but I definitely had a big enough roster to get it done, no problem. Now this fight here in particular we need to talk about because this is actually my 3rd time. Like, this video was my 3rd time attempting this fight. And the only reason I didn't get it was the first time I went in, they had a mechanic that I didn't realize was there. And I feel like it wasn't like expressed very well in the boss description, so I didn't see it. So let me talk about like what the mechanics here for this boss. So one mechanic that they have is if you are when they hit thresholds, they go into a mode where they'll counter you. And when they counter you, they will inflict debuffs. So one of the debuffs they can inflict is blind. So actually as like an off-turn counter blind, that's actually really nasty, especially if they hit your main attacker during like an FR and you start missing. That can actually like ruin an FR phase. So that's one thing that you have to be careful of. The other thing that this fight does is they really want you to do AoE damage. So they want you to kill the bosses at the same time. And this was the part of the fight that I didn't realize, but what happens in this fight, if you kill one of them before the other one will instantly revive the other one with full health. It essentially ruins your run. Because at that point, I mean, you could keep going, but you've got to re-kill the other enemy, and you're essentially starting over, so you might as well restart the fight at that point, right? Now, the other mechanic they have is during their FR, they have an attack where they'll get a plus version, which I think will basically kill you. And the way they get that plus version is if your party does, or the way to cancel out that attack, so it's a weaker version so you don't die, is you have to have a party member with a stacking buff that is above, that's 4 or higher, which that's why that's a couple of things they're pushing with Kuja. So one of my issues was I focused too much on trying to meet that early on, because here's the thing, you can just push through and literally kill them before they get a force. You can see the force gauge is going pretty slow, so that really wasn't an issue. But so what happened was on my first run, I brought in Terra. So to me, Terra felt like a good fit for this fight because she has her Esper buff, which is usually going to be above 5 because you need that to get the plus versions of her skills. I'm like, oh yeah, that's a stacking buff. I can just keep that and I'm good to go. And I mean, Hope's got a stacking buff too, so I think I was fine even with just Hope here. Well, the first time I went in, I just killed one of the enemies first and then they revived the other one. I'm like, oh crap, I didn't realize they did that. So after the first fight, I realized, okay, I got to kill them at the same time. So I went in with the same team again, knowing that. And the fight ended with one enemy at 2%, the other one at 1%, and Terra was in the middle of a force and it was at like 800%. She had 2 turns left in force. And the problem is Terra isn't a balanced enough AoE attacker. So I used Magical Meltdown on the 2% one, hoping that the splash would kill the 1% one. And what happened was the 2% one died, the 1% one didn't, and they revived. So I had to do this for a 3rd time. So I said, screw it, I'm going in with Rinoa. And Rinoa may be like one of the best characters in the game for this fight anyways, and I had her available. So really what you want to do is you do have to keep their health very, very even. It can be very easy with a very high force percentage that you can kill one without the other if you're not doing a pure AoE attack. So you have to be really careful about that. I think Enna Crow could take care of this pretty easily because you could just set up a nuke and then drop like a big AoE nuke. Like that could work too. and you could try it that way, but you have to make sure you kill these guys at the same time. That's really the biggest thing here. The thing with the stacking buff, I think you can basically ignore that. Not once in any of my attempts did the enemies ever hit their force time. I've also done the regular run of this fight, which I'll upload. It'll probably go up the day after this one. That one, I just completely ignored the stacking buff mechanic anyways. And didn't let them get a force, so it didn't matter, right? So here, you know, I have Garnet with, because she does have a stacking buff. You can see her buff is at 4, right? And then Hope's got a stacking buff at 5, so we're all good. Everything's good here. So if they got a force, I think we would have been fine. But yeah, Rinoa now, she's just got really, like, everything she does here is AoE. And you can see we just keep the enemies perfectly even the whole time. Garnet's follow-up works great as an AoE, right, with really big damage. I'm very excited for Garnet to get her FR boards, because she's going to be like a really great character. Because you can see in this video, she's still putting in really good work. She hasn't really missed a beat. And now she's getting a buff with FR boards, so why not? We'll take it. But yeah, this fight, once you understand that, it's pretty straightforward. Really, the two things you have to deal with here, to me, the more important mechanic is, one, you have to kill them at the same time. And then the other important thing is you have to deal with the counters, okay? And so the way that you deal with the counters is you apply a Rydia or a Raijin call. So what I did here is I felt like Raijin's a little bit better because it's a debuff on the enemies. So when they do their interrupt attacks, it actually doesn't tick down, and the Raijin buff just sits at 2. So provided you're not giving the enemies turns, that Raijin buff will last the entire fight. Whereas Rydia, you just get 3 dodges. So if they counter enough, then you could the Rydia buff could fall off and you could still get blinded. So you just have to make sure you put something on to make sure your main attacker doesn't get blinded, because that would be really bad. The other way you could do it is if your whole team has 6 framed buffs, then you can't get debuffed. They can't debuff over it, so then you would be good there, right? All right, so now we finish up our first force time here. And we're going to have the enemies pretty low. So really, it's just you get this first force time done, and then it's like, all right, let's just let Hope ramp into another one, and then we just go to town, right? And this one gets done pretty easily here, right? So there's like 111 or 112 mil burst phase. Not a problem. Now, the one mistake I make in this one, it didn't end up hurting me, but it could have if I wasn't careful. And I think this is what ruined me on my Terra run, the run before this, was my thought was to get him to like 800%, and then pop the summon, and the summon would do like 15 mil and AoE kill them. Well, part of the reason that my last run got thrown off was, and I did it here in this run as well, I brought Brother Summon, but they resist Earth. Or they resisted the damage. So the Brothers Summon only did like 1 mil AoE. So I think had Brothers done the normal damage I was expecting, my previous run with Terra probably would have been fine. Because like you can use attacks that deal single target, provided like throughout the fight you're alternating and keeping them even, right? The problem is when you're going for the killing blow, you really need a true AoE shot. Because with how much HP they have, even at 1%, like the example I have, you can't trust that the splash damage is going to be enough to finish the other enemy. So you really want to have some attack that's going to do full AoE, which my thought was the summon was going to finish. It didn't. They got left at 1 and 2%, and then Terra couldn't quite finish off, right? But it was kind of funny, because my run was this team. It was Hope, Garnet, and then instead of Rinoa, I had Terra. And it was kind of funny, because Terra and Garnet are both the next characters coming like right after this. So it's kind of funny I'm using them before they're about to get another upgrade, and they're still both really good, right? But I did do a community stream recap, and I did do my poll planning video. And my poll plan, I would say, I think Garnet would be the character to get this month. I think she would be a great pickup for, like, no matter where your account is, she's just so valuable as a good support character, and to have her as an FR Echo that you can toss onto basically any team, especially for early FR Echo when there aren't many available, I think she's an excellent pickup this month. Terra I don't think is a must pull, but she's good. She's a very good damage dealer, and to have access to more FR Echo, you might want to pick her up just because. But that's totally up to you. The thing is she's going to share banners with Garnet, so while pulling for Garnet, you might pick up some Terra stuff too. So not a bad combo to pick up just as a starter to get some FR Echo on your team. The other thing I am going to do is on March 3rd, so this video will definitely go up before March 3rd. But on March 3rd, when FR Echo actually drops and I can like show it to you in game, I will do like an actual FR Echo guide where I kind of explain everything, I demo the mechanics and all of that. So be looking forward to that video coming out. But I do in my community stream poll planning video, I did like give a brief description as to what FR Echo does, and it makes a lot of sense. Like if you probably don't need to see a guide to understand it based on what I talked over, but like if you want to see me demonstrate it, that I will do an actual guide on it, because I think people will definitely watch that and want to see it, right? Anytime like a new mechanic or a new like kind of upgrade comes into the play, I think it's good to have like a beginner guide on it, right? So I wouldn't call this like a full update to the game. Like it's not like going from Lufenia to like Shinryu. This is kind of like a 0.5 upgrade, right? Like it's just a slight upgrade to characters. Non-FR Echo characters aren't outdated. You can run non-Echo like probably for a while yet and still be fine. I don't think it's going to be required to beat fights. It just makes fights easier if you have Echo. It's going to allow you to get your gauge up quicker. So here, Brother Summon, yeah, only did 1 mil. So it's because of the resistor. So I thought they were going to die there, and I'm like, oh, they still got 3%. So I'm like, all right, well, let's pop the LD here. And then the LD here does finish. And Garnet works well because she's got all AoE damage too. So there you go. You pop them at the same time and you're good. If just one of them dies, they instantly revive the other one with full health, and then it's like, oh, the run's ruined. So anyways, guys, there you go. Dare to Defy 7. Let me know if you're able to complete all 7. Let me know how this fight went for you. Thanks for watching. We'll catch y'all on the next one.